Um, I am the co-chair of this committee, Mr. Craig Spencer. Thank you so much for taking the time and to come in and find out what our goals are for this coming school year. At this time, I'm going to let and we have a Spanish and Mandarin interpreters. I want to let them introduce themselves uh, and go right ahead. Whichever, whichever one of you guys want to go first.
Good evening. The following message will be given in Spanish, offering interpretation services. Muy buenas noches para todas las personas que deseen escuchar esta reunión en español. Por favor, marque desde su teléfono al 347-966-4114 y el PIN o ID de la conferencia 338-043-218, símbolo numeral. Nuevamente, para las personas que deseen escuchar esta reunión con interpretación simultánea al español, por favor marque al 347-966-4114 y el PIN 338-043-218, símbolo numeral. Gracias. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And Mandarin interpreter, go right ahead. Do we have the Mandarin interpreter?
They're in the room. The Mandarin interpretation room. Can you?
Yeah, this is the Mandarin interpreter speaking. I have
Go
a
right ahead.
problem with the phone number, the code, because I cannot get in right now. Like, can you provide me with the meeting ID one more time?
Jose, are you online? Can you
Like, if I don't have the right meeting code, like I cannot make the announcement because I will give them the wrong number.
Okay. Jose, are you there?
I have the meeting ID. Is that what you need?
Yes, can you tell me the meeting ID?
Yeah, it's 935-2189-2713.
Okay, so that's not the one I received, and now I can make announcement.
Okay. Did you need the passcode too? Or you're all set?
Actually, like, let me repeat to you. Did you say 935-2189-2713?
Yes, I did.
But still no.
Okay. I'm not sure. That's the what I have with this reservation. Amy or Jose, any way you can help her out, or
Like,
I'm
I
trying
need
to.
to. Like, I tried the ID. That's 694-104-219. This one they told me it's incorrect, so I cannot get in.
You're gonna receive an email with the new link. I think your name is.
Yeah,
From
yes.
Jose. Can you check your inbox and see if you get another link? He can
I
send
am
it over to
checking
you.
right now.
To continue in English, press 1. Para español, presione 2.
Good evening. I just put that on the chat. Private.
Okay, I will take a look.
Yeah, just take a look. And let me send it
Thank
to you again.
Yes, I do have the Zoom link. I'm talking about the phone line. The phone line, the Mandarin
okay.
line need a meeting ID. I cannot dial in.
Give me just 1 second. I'm gonna put it right here on the chat for you, okay?
Thank you so much. I just cannot make announcement without it because I will be telling them the wrong number.
It's fine. I'm just gonna put it right now. Give me just 1 second. Mandarin. Okay, I got it. And I was trying to reach out to you. This is it. You got it?
Um,
From the chat privately to you.
yes, let me try this one because earlier I think I tried this one and it says it's not working. I'm trying it right now.
There's another interpreter over there also. You just left the room? You were there.
Okay, I just joined the room, so this one works. So allow me to make
Okay.
announcement right now, okay?
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate the help.
Mr. Spencer, thank you so much for giving us this time.
I'm sorry about the wait. 大家晚上好。我们今天晚上有中文翻译，需要说中文的家长，请拨打刚才我们在这个聊天室中用这个电话号码是3479664114，然后输入会议 ID 694104219井号键。再说一次，这个今天晚上需要说中文的家长，请拨打电话3479664114，然后输入会议 ID 694104219井号键。当你接通电话之后，请记得要静音和关闭你在电脑上的声音和话筒，这样可以然后以及你在手机上的话筒，这样可以把背景噪音降到最小。Thank you, Madam. You may proceed. Okay, you guys can hear me, right?
Yep, loud and clear. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Once again, folks, you've joined the Citywide Council for District 75's Capacity and Utilization Committee meeting. I'm proud to be the co-chair of this committee, Mr. Craig Spencer. Thank you for being here. I hope you and your family are well. I'm flanked here by my fellow co-chair, the public advocate, one of the public advocate appointees for this council, Ms. Constance Asidiu. Constance, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Spencer. Good evening, everyone. My name is Constance Asidiu. I'm one of the public advocate appointees to the Citywide Council for District 75. I'm also the co-chair with Mr. Spencer on the Space and Utilization, on the Utilization Committee. Thank you for your attendance this evening. Mr. Spencer, you can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Constance.
Mhm.
So we're just gonna, like we always do in our regular meetings, we're just gonna take about 30 seconds, moment of silence. Want to recognize folks that are still coming out of COVID, have some other issues. We want to recognize their struggle, and we want to give the time to reflect. So 30 seconds, moment of silence, folks. Thanks. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Just going to start it by first, if you guys recognize in the chat, on the top, I've been a Google form to serve as a sign-in for this committee meeting. So please, Phil, let me share my screen so I can go ahead and show you what you're looking at here. Here we go. And folks, just let me know if you're not seeing this. When you open up the form, it'll be a picture of a classroom in the top. You'll notice here at the end of the introduction, it has the committee, the committee's email address and the council's email address. I'll put that in the chat again a little later on. Your name, phone number, language, capacity, utilization. So we want to be inclusive and make sure that everyone is included, no matter. That's why we have interpreters here. So it's important, especially as we go down the line further on into the school year, that we hear from everybody and represent as best as possible. So it's important that's filled out. Where you are per child is a long answer text there. So if you have multiple kids, put in where their exact site is. If you're not within the District 75 community, how are you affiliated? So that way we can recognize our support outside our community. Here's a big question: would you like to be on our committee? So you can't assume that. So that way, at our next meeting on the 22nd of September, I can say, hey, we have these members. This is who's there for you. So please fill that out. Um, Capacity and utilization, mainly, chiefly has to do with in terms of new seats for our district. So how do we advocate for that? And we want to know where you're at, and if there's in terms of where your children are and what ratio it is, and that way, if there's a deficit, which I'll explain a little bit later on how that's looked at, we can speak to who we're representing at these committee meetings. So you can fill that out. Inclusion. Don't want to get too deep in the weeds with that. Yes or no will suffice for now. There'll be plenty of time later on in the school year to go into that, but that's important. Speaking from a father of a 12th grade inclusion child, myself. So there you go. Uh, Many parts of our city have a commute concern, and we're talking about locations for our community. We want to gauge the time that it takes for a kid to get to school, or multiple kids, especially if those kids need a nurse para or emotional para, things of that nature. So it's not necessarily, it's more than just busing. We want to get locations closest to a child's home. So it's important that we identify that in this spreadsheet. You'll see this form at each committee meeting. The reason why it's laid out like this, we have an end of the year report for our council. So we want to make sure we have this data, put it in there, and we can present at the end of the year in terms of what exactly did this committee do for not only the council, but the community that it represents. Additional programs that, because District 75 is a program, so we want to know what exactly your needs are, and I'll refer back to the data. I'll show that briefly, and maybe my co-chair Constance could speak a little bit to that later on. Capacity and utilization also deals with, it could go into facilities. It goes into one of the big aspects of this committee is school construction authority. There's going to be hopefully a subcommittee on that in terms of principals come to us, submit to us the needs that they have, some air conditioning, lighting, things of that nature. So it's important that the council knows in advance, so that way come the end of this fall, we can advocate for that. So that's why that's there. And any other additional comments that we should be aware of. So please take the time to look over this form and fill it out as best you can. Organize on a call from this council. Stop sharing my screen. So I know Council Co-President Sai is here, and Amy, you want to start off just introducing yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Sai. I'm the co-president of Citywide Council for District 75. I have I have two members, Constance Asudu and Patricia Jewett, and Craig Spencer in the space this evening in the committee. Appreciate everyone being here.
Thank you, Amy. Next, I'll turn it over to Vice President Jewett. Patricia, great to see you this evening. Want to introduce yourself?
Gotta find the unmute button. Good evening, everybody. How is everyone this evening? And I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to invest in our children's future. I mean, this is an important committee, utilization and capacity, making sure there's room for our kids to thrive and that we, get what we need for them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vice President Jewett. I want to recognize some, since we're in a small group, we could take a little time for other folks on the call to introduce themselves. So um, I had the I'm blessed to have the principal of my daughter's school, Principal Vinette Ferrandino of 771K. Vinette, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Vanessa Ferrandino, 771K. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for sending me the invite, Mr. Spencer. I'm here to show my support and to, eventually learn more about your committee. I also want to say that by attending the past meeting, when you had the STA, I was able to take what other people had the wording that they used for their STA request. And from that, I worded a letter to one of my councilwomen, and I did get a $200,000 grant to improve my bathroom. So this is very useful for everyone.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. That's we want more of that. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for saying that in this space. Want to go to Miss Jimmy Brown, and then Miss Baez, and then Miss Chavez. So Miss Jimmy Brown, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? She may be stepping away from there. We could we'll circle back to you, Miss Brown. Ms. Baez, thank you for stopping by. You want to take the time to introduce yourself?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Catherine Baez. I am a parent advocate. I was a former CC member for District 12 and a former CCHS Bronx representative. And I'm just here to listen in, help wherever I can. And children are first and foremost. I don't want to hear grown adults acting like children. I'm just here for the kids. They're number one priority, and they're our future. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Ms. Baez. Thank you so much. And I see Ms. Claudia Chavez. Thank you for stopping by. I don't think I'm name doesn't feel. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? That way.
Hi, yes, my name is Claudia Chavez. I am a parent. My daughter used to go to P17X. She graduated, now she's going to P721. I'm here to listen as well. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Great. We're honored to have you. Thank you so much. So with that, I'm going to dive into how this is a little first meeting, open meeting. We'll have another follow-up meeting on the 22nd of September, 6:30 start. So if you could save the date for that, which will promote a little bit more, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more, a bigger turnout. But I'm honored for those that are here, presently, and our community will grow. We'll grow. We'll move on regardless. So what we have here is when I introduce let me zoom this in here. So just in case, I gotta share my screen. That'd be helpful. Let's get off. So guys, excited to have you guys here. There we go. All right. So just gonna zoom this in. So I went into the members in attendance, recognize everybody else here, the Google form, how that works. Just introduce, like I said, it's the first meeting. Other meetings will be more structured, and I'll go into that. But let's get into the history of this committee. The citywide council, the district, the council members that are here are well versed with this committee. And for those of you who don't know, the Office of District Planning comes to us and lets us know, because we're a citywide council, and so we have to represent and every borough. And at the beginning of, or either at the beginning of the year or before the school year starts, lets us know of what the deficits are. and I'll dive into that. I have documentation of that. And then toward the middle of the year, once they figure out the attendance and things of that nature, they could, I guess, they could forecast the new seats for the following school year. And there's a how the process that the majority of that goes through is called the A190 and the Chancellor's regulations. Constance, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong. And that process requires a joint public hearing of relevant community members in terms of the proposed new site to fill in the deficits that the Office of District Planning identified. And like I said, I'll get into that. And members of this council, whether they're in this committee or not, they would go to these across the city, virtually or in person, work with the local CECs, work with the principals on both Gen Ed and because we're co-located. These programs are for the most part co-located. Some of it are that's where the joint public hearings come into play, where they're co-located with other schools, whether it be charter or general ed. And we PTAs will have hopefully this President's Council represent in future meetings. But we gather at joint public hearings to sort of like what we're doing here. Like we take in the feedback from the community in terms of what their needs are, and that's why I put it in there in terms of in the Google form. What are your needs are? What are the programs that you want to see? What's your ratios? What's your deficits? Let us know so we can go to these joint public hearings. We can go to to the members of DOE and advocate for that and make sure that it's better than how we found it. So once there's a consensus about all those folks on the community level, the district level, the Office of District Planning will present that to the public, the panel for education policy. And that's another aspect where council members such as ourselves will there and will reiterate what we put in the joint public hearing. Will to verify what was said, and then the panel votes for approval of this new District 75 seat. Location to be implemented the next school year. Or it could be another year down the road. We had a situation in Staten Island where it was in June it was approved, and that wasn't for this coming school year. That's for the next school year. So that's with that experience, I cut my teeth as a council member in this committee. Co-president Sai has she and I have gone back and forth in terms of committee chairs. So it's time to take it to the next level, and because there are instances where there are other parts outside of District 75 communities that are not informed as they should be. And then they speak at these particular hearings, and um, things may not necessarily be true what they're saying are correct, and we have to set the scene straight, the situation straight. District 75 has its own funding, so we want to make sure that we sharpen our pencil. We go back and as council members, it's not a vacuum, right? We need, if we want a better community, we need to pass it down, and that's what this committee meetings will be. It's spread out. I've spread it out to 5 different areas of each borough throughout. So basically 25 meetings throughout the upcoming school year, because we have some deficits, and I want to mix it up. I want to mix up to based on our experience, what has worked in the past. Amy and I cut our teeth at Clinton High School in the Bronx in terms of there was an opposition for that to come there, and I want to know, how did that turn out? I don't want this council to be in a vacuum, like, okay, we know that you guys exist. What do you guys do? Well, this is what we do. We represent you guys, and we want to bring it back to you guys, and uplift you guys, so that way there's strength in numbers. That way, um, as District 75 parents, we could we may have some blinders on. We may not necessarily see our exact surroundings until the very last minute. And as an elected council leader, council member, we're leaders, and it behooves us to give it back, regardless of your situation, temporary housing or hospital, wherever, regardless of your language. It's important that that's given back, because that's how equity happens. That's why my theme: we leave it better than that we found it. So I'll get off my soapbox. I think I'm I didn't go too much into the scope. I kind of mentioned it. 5 different areas of each borough. We want to highlight the deficits and highlight what's worked. And now that's a broad stroke. So the future committees, we could work. Committee members will work in terms of how specifically that'll work. Um, I guess I'll go take this opportunity to uh, veer off to see if there's any questions let me stop sharing my screen. Any questions in the Spanish line and the Mandarin line at this time? Or any after, so if you guys could check, and just want to make sure. Any questions from the Spanish line? Any questions from the Mandarin line?
I didn't hear any questions from the Spanish line at the moment.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Anyone?
No questions on the Chinese line as well. Asked it twice.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm just going to go a little bit further, and we're going to check back with you guys again in about 15 minutes or so. Thank you so much for your time. I want to recognize former co-president of the council, Mr. Shamel Lawrence Sr. Here in attendance. Mr. Lawrence, you want to introduce yourself? If you can, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Good to be here with all of you, and I'm just here to support the council work.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. With that being said, I'm just going to dive back into it, because this at least needs about 5 minutes of the time in reference to data. So, like I stated, the office, I'm not sure those of you who didn't attend. So, Office of District Planning came to this council's August calendar meeting on August 10th and presented publicly what I'm showing on screen here in terms of and I'm not going to get too deep into it, because that's what this committee is for. We need to get into there, and it also goes back to the Google form. We need to uplift the numbers that we see here on the screen. Our kids and our families are more than just red lines, more than just barcodes. We need to flesh that out. So here you'll see in terms of the enrollment, which was on a slight decrease last year compared to 2020. So that plays a part. Also, this doesn't include inclusion. So I have another document that'll briefly show that. Let me go on. I'll go deep into that. This is a breakdown through borough in terms of where some of the deficits were. And compared this year compared to 2021 compared to 2020. And these are the new sites from the previous school year. And I've identified some of these, and I'll show you the schedule in terms of meeting dates, which we'll finalize and get emailed out. So make sure you put your email in the Google form so we can get that to you. What I want to take the time out to do is just you'll see here in terms of the enrollment, Staten Island is 31, so, and that's a whole borough, so that's going to be naturally high. But I'll read the following top 9 under top 10 under that. So District 11 in the Bronx, District 27 in Queens, 24, I'm sorry, in Queens, District 10, 9, and 8 in the Bronx, District 28 in Queens, and District 29 in Queens. Right under that is District 20 in Brooklyn. So we want to recognize those high and see if there's and I've also, in terms of our calendar schedule, I want to try to break into as many. Um, uh, I want to go where the need is, and then invite those with the lower end here to attend meetings that are closest to the district that has a high amount. So, and that's a lot of work, but that I just want to put that out there. That's work that's still to be done. That this is for elementary school, middle school, and high school. And one of the things that I wanted to go, what I mentioned before is our community is more than just barcodes. We see 303 missing elementary school seats in District 9 in the Bronx. What does that mean? It's as an elected council member, as elected leader, we need to do what we can to flesh that out. And that's why the form is so specific. What district are you there from? What are your needs? What are you seeing? What boots on the ground? What do you Vice President Jewett is always talking about that. Boots on the ground. What are we doing? So I want to invite folks from, and not when I say I mean the committee. We'll invite folks from these communities in terms of, and then we may have those in other districts like District 10 and District 1 that might not have the same situation and want to find out how that works. And we'll dive into it as best we can. So we have District 22 in Brooklyn. That's pretty high end. District 18 for elementary school deficits. Here's a middle school, 163 in District 27. We got to find out how that works. District 20, I mentioned District 20, 106. We also have to keep in mind that we're a program, so we're co-locating, and there's a challenge in reference to if a particular physical location can house something for us, for our needs. So we need to flesh that. It's more than just the red that you see on the screen. And then high school, yeah, yeah, it's daunting, but we want to also have the right perspective when we see this red. We want to be realistic. We don't want to raise up and misconstrue what we see there, and we want to be realistic and have a short-term and long-term goal. I think that was mentioned previously in terms of what our approach is. We can't go off the cuff, but we need to flesh out and flesh out these red spaces and see what those needs are, and advocate for them correctly, and also educate those in those communities to know what they are and better speak to that, whether it be here in our space or other spaces with their PAs, their PTAs, their local CECs, things of that nature. Before I go into asking the interpreters if there's any, I want to go into inclusion. Now, inclusion, gee, how do I get into, let me just share my screen. Sorry about that there. So we're gonna identify some folks from the district to help flesh this out. It's a different need. What I can say is that it's a collaboration with Gen Ed schools to put our D75 children um, into their programs, but at the same time having a space for whatever PTOT and extra needs they have. So I'm not sure how this is reading. Let me just go back here. But these are also, and these are numbers, we have it per borough. Um, I don't want to go into deeper dive into this, but um, it's a separate conversation, but it's a conversation nonetheless. I'll use this space to state that district in the upcoming elections, because the Education Council elections will be this spring. There'll be opportunities for District 75 parents to be on. There'll be a seat on local CEC, and they're going to need to interact with Gen Ed folks from their local communities, and this is something that they need to know. And it behooves us as District 75 parent leaders to pass this on responsibly. So I just wanted to mention that it's out there. It's going to be a deep dive, and that's something that we'll talk about. Let me just go back into our agenda before I get into. And like I said, the committee, once we have the committee, we could do a deeper dive and be more specific in terms of how that looks. Um, Space planning, deficiencies, I mentioned that, collaborations. All right. So let me just circle back to centers and and see if you guys could check Spanish and Mandarin lines, see if there's any questions, and leave a little space for feedback, and let my co-chair Constance go into the SCA part. So before you do, Constance, you do that. If Spanish and Mandarin lines, can we check once again, please? Thanks.
There's no questions in the Spanish line at the moment.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And
To
Mandarin,
ask a question on the Mandarin line right now.
nothing in the Mandarin. So Constance, you want to talk? I get.
Sure. Before I proceed on that, Mr. Spencer, there's a few other people that joined us, and you did miss a person prior. We have the other co-president for the council, Celia Green. We also have Ms. Sachs from the President's Council, the secretary, as well as the president, Andrea Daniels. And you did not, Ms. Brown didn't speak before, and also you did not call for Ms. Mona Lisa Chandler, who's listed, and she was there. She's between the interpreters, so you might have not seen it.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Thank
those people could take a few minutes to introduce themselves, and then we'll just give a brief overview exactly what the SCA section is, the capital plan.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. You can start with Co-President Green.
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. And I'm glad to be here. My name is Celia Green once again, and I am the co-president for the Citywide Council for District 75. And I'm just happy to be on this call with this company. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia. From there, let's go to our President's Council folks. Mr. Lawrence, who will introduce himself. He is the Vice President of President's Council. Ms. Daniels is the president. Go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead. Introduce yourself.
You hear me, everybody?
Gotcha.
Hi, good evening. My name is Andrea Daniels. I'm the president of President Council and DLT.
Also former CCDC 75 member last term. Thank you so much, Andrew. Looking forward to collaborating, getting the work done. I'd be remiss to get in to introduce Secretary of President's Council, Ms. Gwen Sachs from the fabulous borough of Queens. Go ahead, Gwen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gwen Sachs. As Mr. Craig said, I am recording secretary for President's Council D75. I'm also currently, I was a DLT representative for Queens at the time, and I am proud to be the PTA president for P177Q. Have a good evening, everybody, and I look forward to learning.
Thank you, Gwen.
You're welcome.
Honored to have your presence. I'm going to go to Ms. Brown because I know
I thought you had called me before, but I was I'm listening to the listening tour with the new superintendent, and they just finished. I'm Jimmy Brown, and I have a granddaughter that's in an inclusion class. Well, not an inclusion class, but she has an IEP and in general ed. And I'm also a parent lead that sits on this CPAC as the first vice president. And as I also sit on DLT, and I represent President Council for District 3.
Honored to have your presence, Ms. Brown. Thank you so much. Ms. Chandler, sorry I missed you there. Could you go ahead and introduce yourself?
No problem. Thank you so much for having me this evening. My name is Mona Lisa Chandler. I am a former CCHS representative for Queens. I did 2 terms on the council, and also was the capital plan chair during my tenure on the council. So I came this evening to see how I could assist with, the capital plan, which is going to be coming up very soon.
Thank you so much. Honored to have you here. And with that being said, you can educate our community, and District 75 will be that much stronger for it. Parents will be that much stronger for it. Thank you so much. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody. Constance, do you want me to share my screen with the agenda, or you want to just talk off?
No, I think I could just talk off cuff for right now. Ms. Chandler is much more an expert on capital plan than I am, and she's actually going to be doing our presentation this month in our calendar meeting on capital plan pre the SCA's presentation. Okay, in order to assist us to start ahead of time, so that we get as many schools sending in requests that need work done within District 75, since we are citywide and we have a lot of co-located spaces. Okay. But basically the capital plan, as your principal has stated so eloquently, that because she came to the capital plan meeting, she was able to put together a proposal for a grant from, I don't know if it was a city council individual, because sometimes you can get funds from state representatives as well. Okay, but I'm very happy to hear that, and I'm glad some of the council was of assistance, and the capital plan meeting was of assistance. So that's what we plan to do for this year. With the help of Ms. Chandler, we're going to get this started early. We're going to get principals in, have them determine what is actually a capital item, as opposed to something that's for, building repair people, okay? Because there are 2 different things. And the terminology, Mona Lisa, Ms. Green, all can correct me, because there's a few people in here, Ms. Byers, well aware of capital plans, all right? But there is an actual proposal. There's also the Reso A funding, which your principal tapped into. I believe it's a Reso A and not the general funding of the representative, because it could be either one. The Reso A funding, which you can get from council persons and from borough presidents. So, but those are separate requests, and they're made through those particular offices and can always be made. And if your capital plan request requires a large sum of money, if you're a principal, it's good to put in both, all that you can put in, because sometimes SCA may not fund you fully, or if you get partial funding, they'll fulfill the balance. So it's always good to do that. So as I said, it's just a matter of being prepared ahead of time, because I know school is starting. The principals are going to be busy opening schools, and then with register alterations and budget alterations into October, they're very preoccupied. That's why we wanted to do the presentation early, so they can assign someone, because it's always good to assign a staff member to handle this for the school. It's also good to look at the BCAS reports on your schools, and that's for parents also. You can go on the school's website and find that and look at it. And it's also good for principals to walk, even parent leaders, with the custodian of the school to see what kind of repairs the school does. That individual is much more aware in most cases of what you need than anyone else. Because as I said, principals are busy with many things. Okay, so those things I just wanted to get out. I mean, you're running an excellent meeting, Mr. Spencer, so I don't want to really interrupt it to that extent. But if there's anything else that can be added preliminarily before we get down to like our meeting in September, which will be much more in-depth and detailed as to specifics, whether we're doing the whatever comes out as public hearings, co-locations, if anything shows up at that time. Okay. And if anyone else wants to chime in, please do that between the co-presidents and the any of the members who are on. Co-President Green would like to speak. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Asidu. I just wanted to say I was glad that you mentioned the resume funding, because I think a lot of people, some people don't know about it, but I think more parents are learning about it. But also I want to, before it's time, talk about one other funding that comes up every year, which is participatory budgeting. Unfortunately, not all 51 members of City Council are going to do participatory budgeting, but I think the Senate people do it as well now too. Participatory budgeting is, although it's a large amount, it gets divvied up in that person's geographic district. So whoever it is that's your City Council person, people get to vote on it, people from that particular district, and they include students too. So you can get the students in your school to vote towards using money towards whatever it is in your school that needs to be done. That, let's say it's not covered by capital plan, although it is a capital plan initiative, let's say it's not funded for this year and stuff. Participatory budgeting is another way to get it funded, but you have to, you do have to apply. And the only issue I find is that all of the City Council people do not do it. I think there's maybe 30, somewhere between 30 and 35 of the 51 that actually do participatory budgeting, but it is excellent. And I think it's an excellent lesson also for kids and what voting can do. Although they're not really voting for like somebody in office, they're just voting for what the money would be used for. So let's say there's 5 schools and somebody's given a geographic district, they might be able to get, because it's usually $1 million, so they might be able to get $100,000 a piece. Maybe that does a bathroom for one school, maybe it does an auditorium for another, maybe it does something else for the third school, So I just want to make people aware of it, because it is just like everything else. You have to apply for it, and you need to find out not from your specific elected official, but for the official who is elected, and that school, the school that your child attends, is within that geographic district and stuff. So that you need to find out if that person does participatory budgeting. I know that Corey Johnson used to spearhead a lot of that, and he had close to 41 of the 51 people that were in City Council at that time doing the participatory budgeting. So hopefully more people will do it. And I'm pretty sure it's the Senate, because I got a letter on it the other day from somebody that was not in City Council. It was either a senator or an assembly person. So I want people to be aware of that, because even senators and whatnot have a geographic district and a number of schools that they also are responsible for. So your principals may be able to find out, but you know, if push comes to shove, put in the address, and there are sites that will tell you who is, especially since we just had primaries and stuff like that. There are sites that will tell you who is who just won and whose district that particular school is in. Because it's good to cover as many bases as possible. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Co-President Green. Yeah, it's it goes back to I just re-put the form in the chat, the Google form in the chat for those of you that came in late. I put in there specifically where's your child going, where's the location per child. Location is key. It's big. So how I want to do this is Miss Wanda, who's a friend of the council. She's here. I want to have her introduce Ms. Wanda Belines. Did I say that right, Wanda? And when after that, Principal Ferrandino, can you speak a little bit about the inclusion? Because I think I don't feel comfortable how I presented that. So I was hoping you could back me up a little bit in terms of how that. I don't think I explained that too well. So if you don't mind, Wanda, if you can introduce yourself, and then Principal Ferrandino, if you can maybe chime in a little bit if you're free. Wanda, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening already. Sorry, I got here a little late. My apologies for that. I just found out through Instagram about this meeting. I've been involved in participatory budgeting, for that matter, as I put in the chat with Resaway. Not that I've been involved, but I've been writing proposals and doing this since 2014. As Ms. Green, Co-President Green mentioned, this depends on City Council, but I have news. Usually participatory budgeting starts right about now, doing the community sessions, having the community come forth, present ideas here and there. Usually participatory budgeting concentrates in capital projects instead of expenses. We could go a little bit more in details, but because they're having some issues, the councils are leaning towards not going through participatory budgeting this year, as per rumors that I have heard. But because I've been so very involved in the South Bronx, and pretty much wherever my daughter goes to school, whatever neighborhood she's in, I go to the city council website and I make sure that whoever is the council member for that neighborhood, I get in touch with them and I ask. And pretty far, we've been very, very successful. I have, in the schools that my daughter has been in, we have managed to get what? Ooh, like 5 million, give or take. The last time it was this past April that we got $65,000 for my daughter's school. And the best thing about it is that anybody over the age of 11 can vote. They don't request ID as long as you live in the neighborhood or work in the neighborhood. That is the beauty of participatory budgeting. Anybody over the age of 11, as long as they live in that neighborhood and work in the neighborhood, it's wonderful. I can go on and on and on because again, it's been 8 years that I've been doing this, writing proposals, doing the research, making sure that the schools have whatever they need. They usually go for technology investment, repair the bathrooms, AC at some point. That's not a situation right now because City Council, the mayor wants to make sure that every school has the AC here and there. If they have any questions, anybody who knows about it will actually be able to answer that. The council members at this time, because of the redistricting, they're having some movements specific. I don't know much about the city at large, But in here in the Bronx, they're making some schools are moving districts or council districts. And a lot of people tend to believe that it goes by the school district, and it is not so. Like Ms. Green said, it depends on where the zip code, in what zip code the school is located at, and who the council member is gonna be it. Okay, Resaway is a little different. Usually it starts at the beginning of the year, and it has until the end of January to do all this. It depends on how much money the school construction authority has, but it depends on how much the school needs it and how much is how often the school gets benefit from other let me rephrase that, how other people will benefit from that. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for letting me speak, Mr. Spencer, and thank you, Ms. Green, for having me.
Yeah. Hey, Wanda, what school
So
for your
I
daughter?
started with P352X when my daughter was in kindergarten. She graduated from that school in 2018. We got $3.5 million for that one.
This is District 75 school, right?
Alexa has been in D75 since what? Since she was in kindergarten. Alexa is already in 10th grade. So we got 3.5 million for 352X. We got for B17, $350,000. We got just recently, as soon this past April, from Council District 18, we got $65,000 for technology enhancement for the high school. $65,000. Nothing is gonna be set in stone until January, until the new fiscal year is gonna come through. So that's pretty much it. In my neighborhood, we got $500,000 for some cameras and speed bumps in the street in front of me, around my neighborhood, because the street that I live in, it's really dark. So we needed to put a lot of video cameras and better lighting. So all in all, and I live in the South Bronx, so usually over here it's pretty dangerous. So we needed to make sure that we have so many other things. As a matter of fact, I just found out that in between my building and the next one, they're gonna be building, oh, this is great news. I just found out like 2 weeks ago. They're building an entire new playground only for special needs.
It's great. It's great news.
I am so stoked about that. That is not that I almost cried. Well, I cried.
Hey, Wanda, I want to table. I made note of the participatory budgeting
Budgeting,
and
yes.
experience. I think that's an aspect. And Constance, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we need to have some sort of that be one of our focuses. What does that look like? And with your success, I think that would really.
Right. I agree with you, Craig, but as she said, it's a new council, basically. You have over 30 members that were elected to this new city council. So we have to wait and see moving forward who actually is going to participate in that. Because it's not required for every council member to participate. That's it, so it's a matter of us doing some grassroots phone call visits to see and even push the envelope on that, And Miss Chandler has her hand up, so.
Right. Go ahead, Ms. Chandler. Because I know I want to have Principal Ferrandino speak, but.
Yeah. I just wanted to let you know. I think Ms. Chandler actually wants to speak to what we're talking about now. Because.
Ms. Chandler, can you hold on for a second? Principal Ferrandino, can you hold off until Ms. Chandler asks a question?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Chandler.
Thank you, Principal, for allowing for me to speak. I just wanted to add to what was already said, was that everyone understand that when you talk about the Reso A and the participatory budgeting, it all comes from one pie. So let's just say if you have a pie of say 10 million, they divide that pie up, right? For the city council to be able to do with their participatory budgeting for Reso A and then capital plan. So it's not that they're separate money. It all comes out of one pie. They just divide that pie up to say this is what we're going to use for, but it's not separate. So I just want people to understand that, because sometimes when we talk about the different ways that people can apply to get funding, they think that it might be a separate budget, other than but not understanding that it's all in one. Thank you.
Yeah, and so this would be toward something like repairs and things of that nature that maybe the SEA doesn't provide for. These type of fundings, supplementary. Am I assessing it correctly?
I wouldn't say that it's supplementary, but it does, when you're applying to SCA, those are capital plan. Capital plan is something that is going to be an improvement to the school, either like if the front of the school has to have a ramp, right, for easier access for the students, or if the bathroom, right, needs to be refitted to allow for wheelchair students to be able to use the bathroom. The repairs that you're asking to have done have to be something that's going to last for 5 years. So for example, if you say that you want to have your auditorium done, so you need the auditorium done, you need the seating replaced, you need the ceiling done, that's okay. But they're not going to pay for your curtains in your auditorium. So even though they will redo your auditorium, they're not going to pay for the curtains. So that's something that you might want to go to the city council person and say, or PTA, or, however you want to, whichever avenue you want to go, and say, we're getting all of this work done. However, this is not going to be covered. Can you, right, to kind of complete this, this project, can you, allocate funds, right, to take care of that. So it really depends upon the request. And like it was previously stated, I think by either Ms. Green or Ms. Aceto, is that the more avenues that you have. So if, let's just say, again, you want to get a gym done, because I think Ms. Baez, when you and I were on the council together, there was a school in the Bronx that there was a problem with the ceiling in the gym, where the tiles were falling on, and making it dangerous for the students to be able to participate in the gym. The temporary fix was to put up a netting, so if anything came down, it wouldn't hit the students, but that's not solving the problem, right, with getting that done. So if District 75 is putting that request in, the school that you're collated in is putting that request in, your city council person is now saying this is something that needs to be done. Having multiple people or multiple advocates for that particular request, and SCA sees that, then they know, okay, well, you know what, we, not just them, but we also have city council, we also have, others stating that this is an issue, then they look at this to kind of make it a priority. So it really depends upon the request. I don't want to take any more time, because I can discuss this with you at the next meeting, but I just wanted to put it out there that it's not a separate budget, right? When you go to Reso A or participatory funding or SCA, it's all the same pie. Everybody just, you have your slice, I have my slice. If I want to give you from my slice, right, that's basically what it's all about. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Chandler. Food for thought. I took notes, so I'm pretty sure this will be a topic in future meetings. It's 7:36. I want to give a couple minutes to Principal Ferrandino to speak, to flesh out my substandard description of inclusion. Then I want to check with interpretation staff and try to tie this up in a bow. So Principal Ferrandino, if you could,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, so I have inclusion at 7 out of my 9 sites, which allows for seats in District 21, 22, and 18. So the ratio for students in inclusion, it'll be for elementary and middle school is 2 students to 1 paraprofessional when they're supported in general education, 3 to 1 for high school students, and students for inclusion can be standardized or alternate based on the social emotional, the behavioral needs, and if they can be served in the general education environment. So typically the students are served by a SETS teacher, and they through District 75, but they're with their general education peers. And we look at them as our students. So it really works when there's a collaborative relationship between the 2 principals and that there's constant communication between the 2 schools. My SETS teachers provide pull out and push in services based on the students' IEPs and based on the individual needs of students. They'll do tutorial periods and they'll adapt the work from the general education classrooms in terms of like their literacy, math. My teachers also support with transition and any additional work in core subjects. I hope I'm hitting what you wanted to hear, Mr. Spencer. But
Yeah,
we basically have an inclusion like in terms of space, because I know this is about space and capacity. We are granted like an inclusion office or classroom for the pullout services. The related service providers also they'll go between sites to ensure that they're meeting the needs of the kids in inclusion from District 75. My ENL teachers travel to my inclusion sites, and we do share best practices with the general ed. I meet constantly with my general education colleagues. If I am getting a student for inclusion, this is not a decision that's made in isolation at all. I really do involve my parents in this. We involve all the related service providers, we involve the teachers. I am very fortunate to have an inclusion teacher that's at Brooklyn Studio who will go to my off sites and also look to see, I asked her for her opinion to go to other sites to see if we can expand, if there's other kids that are eligible, to talk to the teachers as to what we look for inclusion. We have like a checklist and an in-house rubric that we use. And I also believe heavily in like doing a trial with the parent permission only to see if it would be a good fit before we move forward.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I couldn't. Thank you, Christopher. And I want, this is just a push off. I want you to lay that foundation so that I could pair off and see. I'm biased because it worked out for my daughter. But
Mhm.
I'm here not for my daughter. I'm here to make sure that it works in every part of the city.
So that's
And-
why, like, I believe strongly, like, this has to be a collaborative decision, a team decision. Like, I never want to send a child into inclusion and have them come back out of inclusion. It does happen, but we want to make sure that they're ready for it, that they're fully supported when they go into an inclusion class.
Thank you, Principal Fernandez. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it. I want to cut it right there, but I'm
Okay.
gonna invite you back, Ms. Mooney, back, of course. Any other? And I know there's other folks in the Bronx, folks in Queens, some inclusion programs I know, but we won't. This is also a best practices space, so I want to leave it. Thank you, Principal Fernandino. I want to go to the Spanish and Mandarin interpretation. Oh, I got a big guest that just rolled in. Um, Spanish and Mandarin interpretation. If you could check the lines, please. Thank you.
Craig, do you want to check the lines? If they don't have anybody in the rooms, maybe we can dismiss them for the evening.
Yeah,
'Cause there
that's
wouldn't
what.
be any purpose if there's nobody in there.
Yeah, that's what. I just want to do my. I was reading your brain.
No questions.
Okay, anybody in the Spanish?
No, there's no questions in the Spanish line.
Okay, interpreters, thank you so much. You're so important to this process. Hope to see you in future meetings. Thank you for supporting our community. We release you at 7:41 p.m. on August 31st, 2022. Have a safe Labor Day to you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, interpreters. Appreciate it.
Amy, before you speak, I need to let Ms. Remy Izquierdo, DLT, D75 DLT, parent leader, have a few minutes. Rima, are you there? Maybe she's attending another meeting. All right, I'll circle back. Rima, I'll circle back to you. Hey, Amy, I want to, you have multiple kids. How many, is more than one that's in inclusion, right? Sorry, are you well, maybe I see you. You free to speak, Amy?
Yes, what do you need?
Yeah, I want you, with what Principal Ferrandino had put out there, I want to get the parents' perspective. I only have one kid. I know you have multiple children. Do you have more than one in inclusion, or just one?
I just have one. I'm not sure if Celia has more than one child in inclusion, but you can ask.
Celia, I just wanted if you could take a couple of minutes to get the parents' perspective.
Co-President Green has had 3 children in the inclusion process. Mr. Spencer.
Thank you, Constance. Hey, so you have a moment to just give your feedback in terms of your experience as a parent in the inclusion.
Well, I have, as Councilmember Rosillo has said, I have 4 kids that were D75 overall. I have 6 kids altogether, 4 who are D75. And of the 4 with the D75 experience, 3 of the 4 have been in inclusion. And 1 is alternate assessment, and the other 2 that were in inclusion are actually, 1 is alternate assessment, is with alternate assessment the entire time. And the other 2, 1 started off as alternate assessment, but in like the end of middle school, the beginning of high school became standardized assessment. So I have experience with inclusion from the alternate assessment kids and the standardized kids as well. So what was it specifically though? Because I think it's the least known opportunity in 75.
Yes, it is.
Like I think it's the thing that should expand the most, because if we're going to really talk about true inclusion, the way that 75 does it is true inclusion, because you can't just take all the kids that have an IEP and throw them into a gen ed class and figure they're going to sink, swim, or whatever else. They still need those D75 supports. And the way that it's structured, I was still able to get those D75 supports. And I had D75 in at least 2 different schools, because my oldest son was in inclusion in 369, but then for high school, his whole high school career was in P77. And he went to Maxwell. That's why when Maxwell was bringing back an inclusion, I was really happy. Mm-hmm. But they did have an inclusion at that point, and he spent 4 years at Maxwell in inclusion. And then like I also had my other children in 369 go through an inclusion at, most of it was in District 13, but some of it was in District 15, and some was in District, I believe that is, I'm not sure if Maxwell's in 19 or 23. I think it's in 19. I do think it's in 19. Brooklyn, and stuff. So those were the experiences I can speak to. I know that because of, you know, I got a distance in time between my oldest and my youngest. You know, I had a range of experiences in inclusion, and it doesn't exactly look the same at all schools. But the one thing I will say that is consistent in inclusion in D75 is that there is that structure for them to still have the supports that they need, because without it, it would not work. Like it just doesn't work. I've seen them take kids from a 611 setting or another small setting and throw them in inclusion and without, and not necessarily not with bad intentions. Don't get me wrong, not with bad intentions, just that I don't think people understand that our kids still need that support even when they do well sometimes. You know, it's a work in progress and it takes time. And I think inclusion really gives them that time to grow and to expand and to gain their skills and to help them to be steady. For lack of a better word, but help them to be steady in their skills. Because I like I said, I've seen it where, because I was always in PA and PTA and whatnot, I've seen it where kids have come in from inclusion where they were decertified from 75 or decertified from an IEP in general and go into gen ed, and it just doesn't work sometimes. Our kids do need that help. I'm not saying you got to hold their hand exactly, but you do, there's certain steps that have to be taken. There's things that have to be learned. That definitely have to be learned. And I think inclusion is that way that gives them that chance. I have one son that graduated in 2019 from 369 at 265. And he graduated with his Regents diploma with all his honors, and he credentialed it because it was an arts program. It was an art school, actually. 265 is Dr. Susan McKinney is an all art school. So he credentials because you have to take the state exam to credential. It's not like an art school where you take 2 things in art. I know you know this. It's not for your benefit, Mr. Spencer, but it's for the others, because if you do an art school, you have to take the 10 credits in the arts. And you do get to take the credentialing exam at the end of all of that. And he credentialed, so he has his diploma with his credentials and with merit and all that kind of good stuff with it. But I don't think it would have been possible had he not still had the powers that could work with him and the therapists and all the other stuff. It would not have been a good thing without all of that. So, and it's not, and inclusion too is not necessarily, it's not for every kid right away. It's something that I think we need to invest in more bridge classes for, because I think that helps prepare kids for what to expect. Our kids are not the type to just throw into something. I think we do need more bridge classes so that the experience can be broadened and that more kids can go into inclusion. Because I think that really is the goal, because think about it. One of the things we want to do is we don't want to try to prepare the world for our kids. That's not going to happen. You know, so it hasn't happened so far. I think that we do need to prepare our kids for the world. You know, there's reality. We do have to go out there. They have to be able to at some point be independent, whatever that looks like for that kid. But you do want to have them be as independent as possible. And I think this is a way to do it. I think this is a chance. A lot of times people think that a kid has to be, because my oldest is nonverbal and he remained nonverbal. He's, you know, he can say a couple of words, but he, even if he was blessed with perfect speech, he would not be chatty. He just wouldn't. But he benefited so much from inclusion, not necessarily from the same perspective as my other son, but he benefited so much that, for example, in junior high, in being in the gen ed class, they had an assignment. They had to write about 4 of the presidents. They were assigned by the teacher, you know, they had to write about 4 presidents. They had to do the thing with the fallout boards, like the science project kind of thing. Everybody else got up there, meaning the students, one by one, and had to talk about the points on their board and whatnot. And my son, who barely ever speaks, got up there and figured, well, if they're doing it, do it too. Because I got a call from the school. It was like a miracle. So I just want to say that I can't stress enough that you, unless you put these students in that situation, you'll never know what their horizons can be. And so I think we need to start thinking more outside the box and thinking about how that box can expand to include our children. And I think that's what D75 inclusion does, and does well, because there are other spaces that are inclusive. NES is inclusive, but NES only wants a certain type of student. You have to fit in particular, you have to click off the particular boxes for it. Horizon and ACEs and all that want specific types of students. I think with straight up inclusion, whether they're verbal, nonverbal, have, you know, certain skills are down pat, certain skills are not, they still get a chance to go in and to learn and to grow. And I think that we need to push this more.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Co-President Green. And what I foresee is I know there's inclusion in I put in the Google Forms for those of you who didn't get the chance to fill it out. There's an inclusion piece. There's a busing piece. So as you know, things are our kids are the most vulnerable, and things the lines sometimes get crossed. And this council is strong enough where you'll see other people from other committees. Mr. Lawrence is chair of the busing committee. He also co-chairs the curriculum committee with Vice President Jewett. So we work together, and what we have here we'll share at other committees. And I think inclusion will be a joint thing between our committee and curriculum in terms of what's the quality and do we have the space. That's how I see it. And it you know, works for me. I want it to work for everybody. So I appreciate that. Hey, before we go any further, Amy, we may run about 10-15 minutes over. Is that fine, or we have a hard out at 8 o'clock? You there, Amy? Well,
Yes, I'm here.
do we have a hard out at 8 o'clock, or do we have about 10-15 minutes we could play with?
We have some time.
Okay.
It's still recording.
Okay.
We
Thanks.
do also have a guest here, Mr. Garcia, in the space.
Okay. Before I recognize that what I wanted to, while we have a moment, I just want to refer back to what I was saying in terms of the schedule. And then we could just do an open or closed thoughts and things of that nature. And for those who haven't spoken, make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. Before we all go, before we go back to our families, this is the proposed meeting schedule. And when I say it's proposed, I'm working with the co-presidents in terms of getting the support from the district in terms of communities to identify and go into. I had, like I mentioned, the next meeting is the 22nd, Thursday, which, you know, from this word of mouth, we could spread it around and get some more people from other parts of the city. And I did identify, I'm not gonna go too deep into it now until we can finalize stuff. But you know, 5 sections in each of the 5 boroughs after starting in October that we could either highlight success stories or highlight deficits. Van Buren particularly, it was a stick in my craw, specifically in reference to a community that wasn't as I want to be careful how I say it. It wasn't as successful as I'd like it to be. I think PEP had postponed that location, and it's inspired me to make sure that we do more grassroots and get more parents out there to speak to what our community needs. I did mention Clinton. That's that's Taft actually. District 9. Like I said, there's we want to put some faces to that red bar graph that we saw. Um, that's what I was thinking that we could start off with. I think what I have December 3rd is Clinton, I believe, according to my notes, if I have that correctly. Nope, my bad. March 6th is Clinton. What I have here for December 3rd is Walkabout. That's in District 7, yeah. Yeah, there's this co-located site with charter school, high school, I believe, and want to see the success to that. There's also a middle school section in District 15 in Red Hook, Maritime School. I forgot where I put that in here. It's in the list here. But these are locations that either, like I said, it's a mix of what worked and what still needs to work. Patrides is in here in Staten Island. So this is just the gist of it. And once I'm looking to have, with the co-president's help, have this Constance and I have this finalized so we can get this distributed by the 22nd. And then we wrap up everything at the end of the year and then before the council's last business meeting in June, and present that for our annual report. And we can actually speak to what we've done. So I want to share that with you guys. Just save the date, September 22nd, as our next meeting. So that's all that I think I'm going to present for now at 7:56 p.m. I want to take some closing thoughts, closing remarks from everybody, especially those who didn't get a chance to speak. Go ahead, Constance.
No, I just wanted, sorry, Mr. Spencer, I can't raise my hand, sorry, on this thing. I just wanted to let you know that Ms. Chandler actually has a question I will respond to. Yes, Ms. Chandler, we do make requests for all the schools, it's not just high schools, it's middle, elementary, because we do canvass that whole region in D75. Okay, if you look in the chat, you'll see her question. Also, I gather you, you didn't, but you're also going to do Mr. Garcia, and then I think you need to find out if Mrs. Scardo is still on or is on as well. Oh, she just texted something. She's on. Okay. That's all I wanted to interrupt you and tell you. Okay.
Yeah, and Ms. Chandler, I had shared earlier in the meeting that what the council will be using ODP's data, which breaks down elementary school, middle school, and high school throughout the city. So it's we'll talk about that in future meetings. So let me cut to that. Rima, you there? You want to introduce? You want to comment, and then Mr. Garcia.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to say that I was in one of my DOT meetings today, and I have some underutilized buildings, and I proposed to co-locate some B75, and it was met positively. I would definitely like to have a conversation with district planning around how we can, utilize these spaces, and definitely added that I would like them to be inclusion spots. So that's exciting for me. And that's it.
Yeah. Hey, Rima. I put the email address of the committee in the chat. Please just keep us in the loop. Copy council, whatever we can do, and fill out the Google form if you please. Thank you so much.
Also, to say, Mr. Spencer, I just wanted to ask Mrs. Scardo, what school district, if you can just state where the co-locations.
District 8.
Okay, just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rima. District 8's in the Bronx, folks. Mr. Garcia, you want to go ahead? Thank you for stopping by.
Hey, how you doing? Hi, everyone. Just stopping by. I'm Mr. Garcia. I'm a chapter leader in the Bronx for 7 schools from K to high school. And I'm just stopping by, trying to learn from you guys, see everything going on. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you. Yeah, you're part of the community. Your feedback is vital in terms of what are our programs, what do we need, and where do we need to go. So thank you so much for looking forward to seeing you here in future meetings.
Can I ask a question, Craig? I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia, are you a chapter leader in a district or a particular school in the Bronx? And
yeah, no problem. So hi, so I am District 75, so I'm a chapter leader for
the Bronx.
469 Bronx Continuous Learners is in the Bronx.
Okay.
And
great to have you.
no problem, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Garcia, if you could just fill out that Google form, and you have our email addresses in the chat. Yep, we'll keep you in the loop. Thank you so much. So where are we at here? We get anything else in the chat? So, any that's where we're at this point. In the Google form, if you'd like to be a community member, just check that yes, and Constance and I will pan through that and prep for what the next meeting looks like on the 22nd. And first, before we go further ado, we had great support by Jose Gonzalez, our face rep for the council. Jose, you want to introduce yourself? I want to make sure that your voice is heard. Thank you, sir, for your support. If you're free. Or maybe we could circle back.
He wrote in the chat that he has audio issues.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, Jose, thank you. Anyway, thank you for your support. Just want to make sure that's on the record. So just closing remarks, guys. That's where we're at right now. I noted Council Co-President Green's remarks about inclusion, and Principal Ferrandino I already have access to. So when that discussion happens, that I'll move it forward. Big thank you for Wanda and Ms. Chandler in reference to the feedback about the budgeting, the reservoir, all that stuff, and that ties into just support for SCA and what SCA doesn't cover. So that's something we have to dive deep into. So big thank you for that. REMA has some locations that in District 8. So that's exciting news. And Mr. Garcia, we need his background in terms of his experience. So these are things that we can build on at future meetings. Get back to you once the meeting schedule is finalized. So I wanted to say closing remarks, guys. Let's I'll start with Ms. Chandler. I'll work down the list here. Ms. Chandler, you have any closing remarks?
No, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to sit in on your meeting and to speak. I think, I'm not sure, that Ms. President Green and Mr. Cito might want me to present at one of your future meetings. And so I can go a little bit more in depth into the whole process of submitting the requests that the councils, each CEC, I should say, submits every year for capital plan.
Looking forward to that. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Chandler. Principal Ferrandino, any last remarks? Thank you so much and like Ms. Chandler, your experience was great. Really uplifted this meeting. So any closing remarks? Thanks for being
I
here.
just want to say thank you to you and the council for all that you do for our students and our district. It's incredible work. I will be expanding this year. I will have P771K at PS203. For this year, we're not going to have the inclusion program, but I'm looking forward to the following year of implementing an inclusion program there. And I would like to reach out to the council because after hearing President Green and yourself speak about your own children, I think it would be great to have your support. I do have a good rapport with the principal that I'm co-located with, but this would be an expansion that we could possibly have going forward, and to have the parents speak at that would be, I think it would be really beneficial.
Well, you're on a schedule. It's in May, because I know the
Yeah, I saw when you were scrolling, so I wrote it down. I got it.
we had
I got my
time.
date.
Because my daughter's in her last year, so I want to end on a good note and make sure
Yep.
we're taken care of. But yeah, there was a challenge We had some but we got it done. They got it done. We pushed it through, and we want to make sure that that the parents there know that they get the support. And I'm there with you, Principal Fernandina. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. My best to your fam.
Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. We'll circle back. Ms. Brown, any last remarks, closing remarks? If you can speak. It might be dinner time for some folks. I know I'm a little bit hungry.
She might have stepped away, Mr. Spencer, so we can come back.
I'll circle back. Vice President Jewett, I know I'm remiss about Aja's. I figured Ms. Green was speaking. You were going to repeat what Ms. Green said.
It's not a problem.
Yeah. But
I mean, I think the point that we're sharing is that inclusion is different for each student because we're all individuals and that we all have different experiences. But I had shared the other day that, it wasn't the first attempt that worked with Aja. I put her in inclusion because they insisted, and I did kind of get the mainstreaming that I had insisted, but still when the class became more than 15 students, it became overwhelming. And so I pulled Aja out and put her back into 6-to-1-to-1. And I'll never forget Miss Susanna. I'll never forget that teacher. I owe her a debt of gratitude because she pulled me into the hall. See, we all need somebody to wake us up sometimes. She pulled me into the hall and said, "You are doing Aja a disservice by keeping her in 6-to-1-to-1 because she can do the gen ed work." And she told me exactly what site to go visit. And she told me exactly what to do. And I did it. But like Ms. Green shared, there is no way that I could have gotten Aja through inclusion without the paras, without the support of the D75 staff that is at those inclusion sites. It's just not possible. Our kids need what they need and they should have what they need. But what I wanted to share is that one of the things that I'm always concerned about is that our children are vulnerable to being bullied and that we need to be cognizant of that. And we need to have a venue where we can advocate and be a part of the gen ed population and speak at those PTA meetings and let them know, that this is one of the things that happens. Now, I remember that when Aja was in middle school, they used to have, once a week, they used to have what they call, oh my God, I'm having one of those, those brain farts. They used to have assembly. And Aja asked to do a PowerPoint on what is autism. I was so proud of the fact that she elevated herself and her classmates and shared a PowerPoint on what autism is and mentioned like Einstein, Thomas Edison, so that people would have an awareness because they don't really understand who we are and what we are. And that plays an important role in utilization and capacity. People fear what they don't know. We need to have an opportunity where we're able to let them know who we are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice President Jewett. Just to piggyback on that, there's a couple, like I mentioned Van Buren, in reference to how they were trying to open up a location there. There was a location that was approved last year in District 14, last school year, for Success Academy having their first Brooklyn High School, and how we want to check back with them to make sure our D75 kids are not bullied, for lack of a better term, or pushed around.
Right, exactly.
Walkabout is big. I want to see how Walkabout, because Walkabout came to our council last term and said what they were going to do, and I want to make sure that District 75 kids are, I want to use that as a shining example. So, thank you for pointing that out, and we're going to do our best to make sure that it's an inclusive place.
Well, I can be found. Trust me, Accessorite will get me there.
Okay. Um, um, Co-President Green, go ahead.
I just wanted to say something about walkabout.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
maybe Kat can remember, because Catherine and I were on CCHS when walkabout was becoming, was opening the school, the second school in the Bronx. But walkabout, that second school that got approved is no longer walkabout. They had let's just say they had a difference of opinion or whatever. So it's called another name. I don't know if Kat's still on, because Kat might remember, Catherine might remember what the name is now. Catherine, do you remember what name the new school is called?
No, I know they changed the name around, and I'm planning to go there to see if it's gonna still fit to what they first instructed they were gonna do for these kids.
Yeah, because they definitely had a whole change. It was a whole thing. Because we were in touch with that superintendent. Once we actually got notified by the walkabout people. And that's why we got in touch with the superintendent to find out what was happening, because I've never seen that happen before. Not that things aren't possible, but just I wanted to let you know that walkabout, the model was still a great model, and actually I think there's still more of them. But that particular one, that one that just opened, is not walkabout. Like I said, I don't know what happened. But they did change the name, and they changed the programming. So it's definitely not that same thing. But we were supposed to go see it, and it was close to the end of school. So as soon as they open back up, we'll go with that superintendent to see what it is now, because there's still the same superintendent. It didn't switch superintendencies, but a lot of other things changed.
Yeah, please let us know. That's on the list. I want to. Whatever you guys
I will follow up, because I was one of the people that went and spoke on behalf of walkabout coming in the first place,
Yeah,
meaning the expansion. So I definitely want to know what
any other closing remarks, Co-President Green?
Well, thank you to everybody who came out. I'm looking forward to having a more in-depth conversation, hopefully the next time. One of the things I would like parents to do is, I'm really glad that Mr. Spencer got his principal to come, because this is really important for the principals and the APs and stuff to hear about, because sometimes, we can't assume everybody knows everything. And sometimes they don't realize how important it is to put in for the capital plan, and how important, some of this stuff is, like learning this foundational stuff, because as much as we as parents want to put that in, they can't take it. SEA can never take it from us. They have to take it from a principal or AP or some sort of administrator in a building. So I think we need to try to get more of the principals on. I know a couple that I can hit up already that are either my principal or have been an AP or something like that at my school. And, I just think everybody, though, everybody on this call has a principal somewhere, or has a former principal, or a former AP, or somebody that they can get to come, because it is important to know how to put it in, and how it's more likely to be, how to do it in such a way that it's more likely to get a yes than a no, because it is a finite amount of money, so they're not going to do everything. But if you can prioritize the things that really need, like if something's really badly damaged, or something is a safety issue, especially on stuff, try to get those things done first, because those are things that they really do have to prioritize, that we as council have to prioritize as well, because we don't want students getting hurt in any shape or manner. But I think we do need to, hold out that olive branch and try to bring as many principals and APs and administrators in to find out, what it's really about, and how to get the stuff for their school, so that, next year they're not still sitting there with a lot of not done jobs, capital plan stuff.
Thank you. Well said, Co-President Green. Yep. September 22nd, 6:30 to 8:30. It'll be another format like this, a little open forum, a little bit before we get our hands dirty, because I just want to leave space for it's still another introductory thing, but yeah, and then like I said, I have 5 different areas in each borough, and then if we can nearby principals or something, if hey, we have something in the Bronx, come to this, and it's recorded. Translation, we'll make it happen as best we can. And thank you for the support as co-president and co-president side. Greatly appreciate it. Can't do it without you. I'm just gonna work down the line here, if you don't mind. President of the President's Council, Ms. Andrea Daniels. Andrea, you got any last words for tonight? Closing remarks, not last words, closing remarks.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting. I plan on trying to join the committee. Unfortunately, my chat wasn't working tonight and I had trouble logging on. That's why I couldn't write in the chat, so I apologize. I wasn't even fill out the thing you wanted everybody to fill out because of that reason. But I will be attending the meetings and trying to join the committee to help you guys out, to help us out.
All right, Andrew, I'm going to email you the link, okay? I'll do it after the meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Miss Wanda, any closing remarks, Miss Wanda?
Sorry, I have a lot of people around me. I couldn't hear what you said.
Any closing remarks?
I'm sorry?
Any closing remarks? We're wrapping up the meeting.
No, thank you for having me. And I was not expecting to be here, but you can come with me at all times. You know that.
Thank you so much, Miss Wanda. Appreciate that. Let me go to Ms. Baez. Ms. Baez, thank you for your presence and uplifting this meeting. Any closing remarks?
Just thank you for having me, and thank you. I will be continuing coming to these meetings, and for the capital plan, I should start it now because they'll start submitting in December. By the time January hits, you have to have all of it locked in. So you should start now. That's all.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for having me, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ms. Baez. Yes, Constance made sure. That's why she's co-chair, because I'm a little bit yeah. So your concerns are in good hands. So between Constance and myself, we'll be on top of it. Thank you. Rima, any closing remarks, Rima? Congratulations, by the way, getting those new sites.
Well, it's space for new sites. So we need to have these district planning conversations so that we can get space in there. Every district just got their updated utilization and their district planning reports. So anybody that has space, now is the time to ask them to share those district planning reports with us, to look at any spaces that are underutilized, because ultimately we end up losing that space to charters and so why not co-locate with a D75, make inclusion, and both schools can remain, in the neighborhood, providing to the community. One other thing, October 6th, Thursday, gonna be doing a safety training with the Office of School Wellness at Bronx UFT. Starts at 6. I'm trying to get the space for 5 o'clock, but right now it's for 5:30. And I have a flyer. As soon as it's approved, I will send it out. But it's a generalized safety training, parent facing. So target audience is, all PTA members, Title I members, CEC members, which is every parent in the city. And just to talk about general response protocol, safety regulations, safety plan, what parent leader space, what our place is in that space, and what our students can expect, in schools starting the year, random scanning and stuff like that. So just wanted to uplift that, and if anybody's available, that's Thursday, October 6th at Bronx UST. I will send you the flyers, and that's it.
Thank you, Rima. Thank you so much for your tirelessness. God bless you. I'll talk to you offline. There's other stuff that that's going on that I want to need your input on. So, but looking forward to helping you support those new locations in District 8. So, thank you, Mr. Garcia. Any closing remarks?
No, that's all that no, thank you for having me. I'm here. I've been in touch with a lot of you guys. You guys have helped me with a lot of situations in my school. So I appreciate the support you guys have given me. I'm in the Bronx, and thank you. District 75 strong.
Thank you so much. Please make sure you leave that email in the form, or email the council, email the committee, so we can keep you in the loop. I'm going to close off with co-president Cy, who's helping me run this, me and Constance run this. Co-president Cy, Amy, thanks a lot. And then I want to close off after you, Constance, my right hand. You want to say closing remarks, Amy?
Sure. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you for the chair of capacity utilization to start off this meeting for this year. I appreciate you sharing your plans, and let me know when you're done. I can start recording. Thanks everyone. Good evening.
I will.
Good night.
Last but very not least, Ms. Constance, see you. Thank you for your guidance, Constance.
Anytime, Mr. Spencer, and thank you for all the things you teach me. Thank you. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming, and I'm so glad we had a lot of people here who have a lot to offer us as a group, so we can all grow and we can do more things to ensure that our children's education is the best it can be, and in the best spaces. Let's get that. Thank you, Mr. Spencer. I defer.
We got some work ahead of us. Constance she's got like 3 or 4 different hats. God bless you. But that's a wrap for this evening, folks. Yeah, just keep the date. The next meeting is Thursday, September 22nd, 2022, from 6:30 to 8:30, maybe a little bit longer. To spread the word, is strengthen numbers. To leave it better than we found it. I think we were starting off pretty good, and I'm pretty sure once the school year starts and we get this word out, and thank you to the co-presidents for helping me out, we'll get more. We'll get our those and I put language in that form, like there's Creole out there, there's Arab languages, there's Russian, South Brooklyn, Polish languages. So so just spread the word. We'll get that translation as appropriate, and that way we could be a stronger District 75 community through our parents. So with that being said, I'm gonna say this meeting is officially closed at 8:24 p.m. on Wednesday, August 31st, 2022. The Capacity and Utilization Committee of the Citywide Council for District 75. I am Co-President Craig Spencer. Thank you so much for your time. Please stay safe and have a joyous Labor Day weekend with you and your family. And just pack your patience for that first day of school on September 8th. Have a great night. Good night. We can stop recording, Amy. Thank you.